How's it going, friends and family, and everyone else out there in the world? This is Trevor Spring here, and Shane.
Hello.
Shane Alexander. We're here today to talk about the Conscious Men Collective, something that Shane and I have been working on for the last month or so since our paths have crossed. And we just wanted to share a little bit about our experience, our passion, our vision, and where we want to go with it over this next year. Because we're starting a podcast. Shane and I here are walking side by side, shoulder to shoulder. And since we've come onto this from divergent paths to a unified path, and we've got some really important, passionate things to share about men's work and healing of ourselves and the world and men around the planet, and really how we can all show up in a more authentic way and how we can support ourselves and each other and humanity in that. So we wanted to talk about that for a couple minutes today. Thanks for tuning in. Shane?
Hello, everyone. My name is Shane Alexander. Just met Trevor Spring here a little over about a month ago. A common friend of ours introduced us through social media. She's knew us both separately or individually, and saw that we were both doing some very similar work in our lives and holding a similar vibration. And he's like, the two of you need to meet, and I think you'd have a lot in common. You know, you guys are doing similar in your communities, and yeah, we reached out through that connection and found out that we are doing very similar things, and really encouraging to see someone else standing up with coming to their own truth and it being so similar to mine. And it's been a really exciting meeting, and Trevor and I are seeing the potential of our friendship, the paths coming together. We've created a name called the Conscious Men Collective, and we're building it right here, right now. And this is our welcoming out to the world and launching our introduction of ourselves and what we're here to do and what our intention is. And we'll kind of start to speak to that really briefly. And this is just kind of our hello, and with a lot more video and talking and conversation to come. And I'll just pass it back to Trevor to like kind of speak a little bit to what we want to say in our intro here.
Thanks, Shane. I'm really enjoying this process, and just every conversation that we've had up to this point has been like increasing depth and vulnerability, and just amazing sharing. But the thing between Shane and I that really, I think, set our connection apart from anything that he or I have experienced in the past is that there was a reckoning where we both have started men's circles on our separate Hawaiian islands, and founded around similar concepts and principles and just beliefs and feelings. And so with that reckoning, suddenly we step in, and there's, with both of us feeling that trust of one another, and like, oh, that's who you are, that's what you believe, that's where you come from. We've just dropped into this incredibly deep way of relating that's just over a short period of time, how deeply you can know and trust somebody through these, 6 or however many conversations we've had. And it's pretty incredible. And that's why we're going into a space of perpetuating this conversation, making it a podcast, doing videos, because if we can have this kind of connection and understanding and trust and expand on what we believe together, then we want to spread that to the world. And we want to bring other men into this container and say, like, hey, let's talk about this. Let's talk about all these topics that are confusing and challenging for you. And let's get into our hearts more and get into our bodies more, get into this space together and support each other. And there's this upliftment that happens that's just incredible. And I'm really excited to be doing this.
Yeah. Me too. Some of the motivation for calling men's groups together, is not just like a feel good thing to do on the weekend kind of thing, or like to hey, guys hang out time. It comes more from a awareness of a growing global awareness of the humanity we through our social media, through just the way the world has developed. We're becoming more and more aware of each other, of all countries, of all governments, of all things happening all over the planet, more aware of what's happening in our own countries. And these things are bringing up lots of topics. And in my own personal journey, I'm learning about self-destructive patterns that I have within me. And as I'm learning how to heal them, I'm also looking at and seeing our bigger collective suffering from the same patterns. We got the alarms going everywhere.
I know. Whoa.
Planes flying over.
Speaking of destruction.
We're in the middle of it. And this is what I feel is there's an untapped power within all of us men that I would like to bring out into a bigger conversation. And that has been my efforts and goals in my local men's groups, and that Trevor and I seem to be on the same angle of how we're approaching this and how we're feeling about it, as well as the like urgency or the largeness of this conversation that we feel is like pregnant within the masculine population that needs to come forth and be more visible, be more outwardly present in ourselves so that people can see it in us, and more visible on the planet for another resonance of masculinity that we would like to speak to and call out to, because I feel like it's out there already, and I would like to hear it call back to me when I put this. And I know it is out there, and we're going to start to speak to more specifics of it. And Trevor and I are also learning how to do this back and forth. So even right now, I'll just add that and then pass it back to you, Trevor.
Beautifully spoken. And that right there is why I want to do this. It's so awesome. Yeah, I love this. I'm really enjoying this process. This is our first one, you know, so we could talk about this all day, and we will. We will. But I love what you said about putting the call out there and hearing it call back. Because part of this is about, in putting the call out, we're also putting out a model of what healthy masculinity is, and healthy embodied masculinity, and that we take ownership of, and that we actually identify and we call by a name, and we go out there and we live. But then do we really put it out there and live it to everyone who might judge us or criticize us or emasculate us with their words? Or we do now. We do now. And in doing that, other men can recognize, like, you know what, I have that in me. And I realize in seeing you both that I've been a little bit afraid to step into that, because it's outside of the code of the established limited code of masculinity. And in doing this, other men can hear the call, and I think we'll come and start forming a core group of men who are ready to talk about this and hold this energy and live this way and take it out into their world. I really feel that it can really just exponentially grow in an organic way. That feels really exciting. Yeah. So, yeah, thanks for spurring that thought in me. But yeah, as to the logistics, our intention is we're gonna provide weekly podcasts discussing the topic of integral, embodied, awakened masculinity, all the challenges, all the beliefs, and all the philosophical underpinnings, all the celebrations, all the confusion, all the manipulations, all the any suffering or healing or woundedness or stepping into our gifts that we haven't stepped into, all of it. So the topics will range, and they'll be very deep and very broad at times, and specific with others. We're going to be interviewing men. Sometimes we'll be talking between the two of us, and then other times we'll be it'll just be one of us talking about something that's really true to our hearts. So we're promising a year of weekly podcasts.
A year at the minimum. A year to get it started. A year to believe and just watch what comes back from it in a year of us putting our life force energy into it to, plant this garden, not just like 1 week of it, but like, hey, a year of taking care of this garden and see what comes back. And what Trevor and I both know is that this is already developed within us to our own life path. And like, there's nothing else we are doing. This is what we value doing, and we're figuring out ways to arrange our lives to where we can do this more and more. And I've seen the power of opening this conversation, and I've also realized how difficult it is to open this conversation because it doesn't happen too naturally. Like, there seems to be lots of ways to keep it from happening. And through holding these men's circles, they've given me a platform to speak about these things. And when I speak about them, I find that they're resonating back to me very quickly. But it's only through setting up the platform and saying, hey, I'm building a platform to talk specifically about this. And when we do that, it opens up a whole new avenue for dialogue. And this is what I hope to create with Trevor. And what we're hoping to create together is to hold a space to speak about these very important topics, to get this conversation going in our communities, in our cities, in our country, in our world around us. Give other men an opportunity to tune in and listen to two other men talk about these things and see how they can initiate this dialogue with each other and feel more comfortable with speaking about it. Be like, hey, have you listened to Shane and Trevor's conversation on the Conscious Men Collective? Like, we were talking about this today. That's very, that we want to put these things in motion. And we also want to speak from our hearts why these things are important to us and how addressing them and working with them is changing our lives for the better. And that's ultimately what we're here to talk about.
Yeah. Thank you, Shane. Beautifully spoken. I just feel like sometimes when you speak about what you see, I almost don't need to say as much. It's really beautiful. It really takes the load off of me of like, oh, I got to carry this, and that's part of it, like between you and I, the beauty of establishing this and then perpetuating it out in the world is like, let's help carry each other a bit. You don't have to do this all alone. We don't have to do it in isolation. You don't have to believe or carry all of your life load in isolation. And I'm really ready to start really speaking this and really listening to other men to a new level. And one of the things you said about listening is really beautiful. It triggers like an image in my mind of saying, hey, have you heard of Trevor and Shane's conversation about this? Is that there's no risk in listening to this conversation. There's no risk. There's no vulnerability in it. You can show up and just listen to the podcast. But when you're ready to hold your own conversation and really be witnessed in that conversation, our intention is to have gatherings and to really invite men onto the show and to really engage people through social media in these conversations and to really open it up. So we don't really even know where this is going to go over the next course of time. And, as we were talking before we got on call, we were really just recognizing that we're just starting a journey. I'm not fully like healed and perfect and I'm not the perfect man. And, we're not claiming that, but we're just stepping together on a journey, and stepping with you, Shane, really strengthens me. And I don't feel this passionate about many other things. So.
Hey, thank you, Trevor.
Yeah. Thank you.
I would like to say too, through the sharing of the vulnerability that their strength created. And I want to speak to that too, because I've gathered up my courage enough to like call in a local community of brothers and friends to try to gather them around these topics, but I haven't felt brave enough to make live video or recorded video or to offer it out onto the bigger world. And I've hesitated to. People have even encouraged me to. And I'm like, yeah, it's a good idea. And like, but I'm not ready or whatever. And I've been looking for someone like Trevor.
And not even knowing it. And so have I, yeah.
And looking for someone like Trevor who can reflect that back to me. And support me and see and share a common vision and share a common sensitivity and a bravery to move into vulnerability. And that's a part of what I've witnessed in you, Trevor, and that has like encouraged me to like be more bold in speaking to you and asking you and to like saying, presenting my ideas. And then like your strength has gotten me here right now to where I can like go into a video and that I'm going to share with other people. And like, I wasn't ready to do that without your help and without your presence, without your friendship and your like, maybe I was scared to say like, speak this truth to the world and there's no other men standing beside me.
Well, it's hard. It's risky, isn't it?
Like, it feels a little better if I can be like, I'm veganism. Look, Trevor, he hates me.
See, I'm not crazy.
That is my friend. Yeah, I needed that. And, I kind of didn't even realize I needed that until this moment. And I really thank you for being my good friend already to help me take this next step that I was been hesitating in front of and that I've needed your support to take this next step with. And I'm really excited I'm feeling more encouraged and emboldened and brave to like speak all my truths and to get closer to my own truths and how I live them in my own life. And I really feel that this is the power in all men that we are not fully tapping into. And I would like to help us all to take a look at where our true power is and how we can tap into that and share it with each other and really effect powerful change on the planet. And that's part of why I'm doing this as well. And thank you, Trevor, for being my friend and helping me step forward in a braver way.
Yeah. My pleasure. It really is. Totally humbled. Well, we were going to do this, Shane, as a short one, but this is the nature of us speaking from our hearts, that it just tends to go into the fullest expression it can in the moment. So let's talk a little bit about our subject matter. Let's give a little breakdown on that.
Okay.
I'd like to just read from a list of like some of the subject matter, some of the topics that we're going to discuss over the last year. And it's not going to be in this order, but it's going to be just to really pique your interest. And if you resonate with some of these, all of you out there, and the need for these conversations to happen within your own life or within, you see it out in the world external from you, like, this really needs to be talked about because I see it everywhere. It probably means that it's something that you need to look at for yourself or have the conversation in your own context. But if you resonate with these, please share and let us know about it. And please, I invite you to really share things that you'd like to speak about and things that you feel passionate about, because this is just like literally the tiniest tip of the iceberg, some of the things that we're coming with. Stress in the modern world, money, relationships, and obviously each one of these are more categories that I've started, where it's like under each one of these topics there's infinite conversations and subtopics that can really happen. Parenting, true friendship, nature connection, self-care, emotional literacy and the ability to speak from emotions as a man, relational intimacy and partnership and all other relations, balancing the provider role, love, sensuality, and sex, creation energy and business and relationship, and conscious male friendship, the mother wound, the father wound, shame, fear, insecurity, vulnerability, and communication. So yeah, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg, some of the things that we're going to get into over this course of this time. And I'm really excited to go out there and get our first podcast episode cut. And we're going to do some videos and some talks. But Shane, I wanted to invite you to share some of the rest of the list, because a lot of it was from your heart.
Yeah.
If you would.
This is the exciting part. you, you know, we both have our own individual angles of how we approach it. And yet my confidence comes from the fact of how you approach your list. It's so similar to me that I always feel really safe with what you're speaking about and how you're speaking about it. And I feel really aligned and in harmony with it. And other people have like had to like kind of jog around or box with them a little bit to figure out like, are we on the same page? Are we talking about the same thing? Like, I don't know. And my list sounds different, and yet I believe it's just another angle coming to the same mountaintop. And what I'm really excited about in this podcast is this space where Trevor and I get to speak to the mountaintop from two different angles, and then through our conversation come together and kind of cover all that territory in between. And I feel like that's what's shortly to take place. And my list kind of
great analogy.
Yeah. My list comes from a slightly different angle, but it's going to cover all these same topics. And I would even rearrange the order of my list slightly to just include some things that have come up recently for me. But I would say one of my first connections with Trevor is his willingness and desire to speak his truth, even when it comes into vulnerability for himself, and to speak close to his heart, and where it's going to move him into an emotional state that he's not in control of. And that in itself is a really brave thing to do, that I know personally, like, makes a lot of men uncomfortable to be around, because it's not something well practiced in our masculine population, yeah, amongst men. And not only are people not well practiced at it, they're not always comfortable seeing someone else do it either. Not seeing someone else come close either to crying or to actually in crying or tears, or to just speak to that state of like rawness. And it's something that's often suppressed as like, we don't need to go there. And perhaps what I'm most inspired about, Trevor, is that you do bravely go there. And, you know, without me pushing you there, or without even knowing if I would hold you safely there, you will go there. And to me, this is where all of my work is aiming towards. And I have 100 different ways that I approach this topic, but this is the topic of working with what I consider the entire man, or the entire masculinity, which involves aspects and elements that we could call feminine, are within us. And I feel sometimes our culture teaches us to suppress them or not access them. And yet I don't feel we're ever going to be in our real power until we learn how to access them and learn how to admire and honor and support the bravery of others as they access them. Oh. And, so we are going to address these topics from a more of a full range aspect of masculinity. I speak about balancing masculine and feminine energies for full and authentic connection, for true expression, for like even connection between men. And also I feel when we deny our own connection to the femininity within, we are having trouble with our connection with the women around us, because we're disconnecting that way. And this is where I hope our conversations, I'm actually confident, I already know our conversations are going to get to these places and bring up the work we need to do that's going to help, what I see is shift the planet through doing our personal work and through supporting each other in doing this personal work, and kind of changing the angle to show how much bravery and courage it takes to do this work, and to be honoring each other for showing up and for stepping up and for braving into the territories of our heart, and learning how to work with these like fragile, powerful energies of the heart, and what it means to be a human being on the planet right now, and how we can hold respect and honor for all human beings, men and women across the whole planet right now, by taking good care of ourselves and using ourselves as the model that we can help replicate throughout the planet. And to show that an empowered man is someone who can empower the women around him, who can empower the other men around him. And this is also a topic I believe in, and I'm trying to share with my brothers and say that, hey, like men who are in a game of trying to accumulate and take power are not empowered themselves. and are displaying their wounds on the outside and yet refusing to work with their own wounds. And this is what I hope to address in this work. I take it from the angle of even peace work, because I feel it's a foundational element for all future work to take place on, and to start to acknowledge what are we warring with, and why, and how are we as men at war with women, or masculinity at war with femininity? Where are we at this place of domination or control, or lack of trust, or lack of honoring for the wisdom and the beauty and the love that's coming to us from the femininity?
I love that bird behind you that keeps singing through the conversation. It's really amazing. I have a few more things on the list, and I'm going to let them go for now, because I spoke deeply, and I'm going to wrap it up with one other topic that's coming up really powerfully in the last few days for me, and that's the protection of innocence. I feel that's something that masculinity can step forward with on the planet right now, as I feel it's one of maybe the natural roles of masculinity that we're not honoring in a high enough place, is our work to do in the protection of innocence. And that's my most current topic. But these are amongst, there's lists, and Trevor and I both have made lists and things that we've held in our men's groups. There's a men's group I'm holding here in Kauai on Sunday. I have a list of 5 hot topics that I like to bring up to get men into this conversation. And all of the topics are important, and yet the conversation is almost more important than any one topic. And that's what Trevor and I are here to do, is to bring this forward, to be speaking about it, by speaking to it, by learning how to dialogue around these not so easy to talk about subjects and conversations. Is my long-winded Woo! I love it, man. Thank you, Shane. So supportive of all of us, the way you speak. Yeah, and that's one of the things that this is for, is to help men develop the capacity to verbally express how they feel, what they see, what they're passionate about, and what their depth is, so we can all articulate in that way that you just did, to the degree that our life asks for. Because our life, you could say, well, my life doesn't allow for it, and that might not be true. I think your life, everyone's life is asking, every man's life is asking for them to step into their articulate depth. And that's why this is all based around conversation. This is based around us having this talk and continuing to find different ways, and to invite other people to come in and say exactly what we're saying in a totally different way. Because the people that need to hear it that way will totally resonate with what that person says and how they say it. Yeah, and I really appreciate it. I just wanted to speak to the protecting the innocence piece, because that's really resonant with the creating a safe space piece, which is, I believe, what we do in our men's work, and what our endeavor is out in the world. And I believe that that's the space that I share in my partnership with my wife. And that's why we can share the depth that we have. And that's why you and I share the depth that we have, because there's safety in it, even in the rawness, in the most raw times. And that's what we want to bring out into the world. And I think that's a big role for the masculine to hold and carry, is that we really do establish the safe space for our world to unfold in. And yeah, so thanks for speaking to that. Well, I'm going to be, Shane's holding his next circle this weekend, and I'm going to be advertising another Call to Balance men's circle over the next month. And just so I can have more of these conversations in person. We're also going to be getting together here in Oahu within the next month, the beginning of April, and we're going to shoot our podcast then, and they'll be forthcoming. So it's a really exciting time, and I just feel deeply honored to be right here, right now. So thank you, Shane, thank you everyone for watching. If there's anything else you want to share.
Yeah, just in closing, I'll just say that I feel Trevor's with me on this, that part of the reason we hold men's gatherings or men's collective or these conversations for men is for ways that we can show up more for ourselves, for each other, and also for the women on the planet. Like, it's not so much a boys club to come hang out and talk about how we can take a break from the women, because wow, that's tough working with them. But more like how we can show up together as men and say, like, hey, what challenges are we facing in working with the women, and how can we come back to the women more empowered, more ready to like co-create with them and to create a beautiful planet together, and how can we show up and be making good with everything that we have available to us, and not be in like a victim role, and not be in a role of like competition. Hey, we got to beat these women, they're getting ahead of us. What are we going to do? You know, like, to move out of that place and to like move out of that place of competition with each other into a place of cooperation, into a place of co-creation between masculine and feminine energies, and realize that that's the only thing happening on the planet, and that we are all empowered creators. And I want to speak to that the entire time in these conversations, and how we can be empowered creators and encourage and support each other to create powerfully. And let's bring together a collective vision of what we'll do once we have gathered our resonance, our harmony between the men and the women. What are some of the beautiful things we want to see happening on the planet? And that's a part of this vision and landing of these conversations as well. And I'm really excited. It's 2 weeks, less than 3 weeks. I'll be in Oahu with Trevor, and we're going to do our one-on-one, you know, like the split screen is going to be just us, right? And we're going to do some work together and get this started, and we're going to watch and see where it grows together with you. And we're really excited about it. We both got a lot of passion and energy. We passed back a lot of writings. It's ongoing, it's ongrowing. And thank you for listening. If you've made it all the way to the end, I really appreciate your presence here. And I say thank you, and aloha for now. And look forward to our next recording.
Thanks, Shane. Yeah. Like he said, if you've made it all the way this far, thank you. We really appreciate you so much. We can't wait to do more of this in the future. We might just do another one tomorrow and get crazy. I don't know, because this is that fun. But look out for more to come. Thanks for tuning in. Conscious Men Collective is happening. It's now real because it's out in the world. So thanks again. Aloha.
Aloha.